Hello, English learners. Welcome back to our very fantastic episode. Have you ever felt like your English is fluent, but something still holds you back from sounding truly natural and impactful? Maybe you've nailed the grammar and vocabulary, but in key moments, whether it's a meeting, a social gathering, or even a presentation, your confidence wavers. Sound familiar?
Absolutely, Adam. And the truth is, in 2025, fluent English is no longer just about speaking correctly. It's about how you connect, how you influence, and how you stand out in a world where communication is more important than ever.
That's why, in today's episode, we're diving deep into advanced communication hacks for fluent English. These are the strategies that go beyond the textbook, hacks that real-world communicators use to impress, connect, and thrive in any English-speaking environment.
We'll cover everything from leveraging cutting-edge AI tools to mastering storytelling, small talk, and even body language. Plus, we have a special challenge at the end to help you apply what you've learned right away.
So, whether you're a professional looking to level up your communication skills, a student aiming for global opportunities, or just someone passionate about mastering English, this episode is for you.
Stay tuned. You're about to unlock the secrets to communicating like a native in 2025. Let's get started.
Let's kick things off with one of the biggest barriers to effective communication: confidence. You know, Sophia, I've met so many English learners who are incredibly talented. They have the vocabulary, the grammar, even the accent down to a science. Yet, when they speak, you can sense hesitation. It's like there's this invisible wall between their knowledge and their ability to express it. And I get it. It's nerve-wracking. The fear of making mistakes, of being judged, or even of not being understood can be paralyzing.
Exactly, Adam. And that's where mindset comes into play. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. Let me share a quick story. A few years ago, I was preparing for a presentation in front of a room full of native speakers. I was terrified. I kept thinking, what if I mess up? What if they think my English isn't good enough? But then I realized something important. No one in that room was waiting for me to fail. They were there to listen, to learn, and to engage. That simple shift in perspective made all the difference. Instead of focusing on my fears, I focused on the value I was bringing to them.
That's such a powerful point, Sophia, and it ties into something I always tell people: reframe your mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, see them as opportunities to grow. Think about it. Every mistake you make is a step closer to fluency. Here's an example. I used to work with a student who was terrified of speaking during meetings at work. We created a mistake journal where she wrote down every error she made and what she learned from it. Over time, she started to see those mistakes not as embarrassments, but as stepping stones. And you know what? Her confidence skyrocketed because she gave herself permission to be imperfect.
That's such a great exercise. I'd also add that visualization can be a game changer. Before any high-pressure situation, whether it's a meeting, a conversation, or even a casual coffee chat, take a moment to visualize yourself succeeding. Close your eyes and imagine speaking clearly, confidently, and effortlessly. Picture the other person nodding, smiling, and understanding you completely. This isn't just a mental trick. Studies show that visualization can actually rewire your brain to feel more prepared and less anxious.
And let's not forget about affirmations. I know it might sound a bit cheesy, but telling yourself, "I am a confident and effective communicator," can have a surprising impact. The key is consistency. Repeat it daily until it becomes a belief. And here's another hack. Surround yourself with positivity. Engage with people who encourage and uplift you, and distance yourself from environments or individuals that make you doubt yourself. Confidence grows in supportive environments.
Absolutely, Adam. Another mindset shift I want to highlight is focusing on connection over perfection. A lot of learners think they have to speak flawlessly to be understood or respected, but that's not true. Think about how native speakers talk. We make mistakes all the time. What really matters is that you're making an effort to connect with the other person. Instead of worrying about every single word, focus on the message you're trying to convey. It's the connection that leaves a lasting impression, not the perfection.
That's such a crucial point. And here's one more tip for building confidence. Celebrate small wins. Too often we focus on how far we still have to go instead of appreciating how far we've already come. Did you manage to have a short conversation without hesitating? Celebrate that. Did you use a new word or phrase you just learned? That's a win. Confidence builds over time, and every small success is a brick in that foundation.
Yes. And let's give our listeners a quick exercise to try this week. Take 5 minutes every day to reflect on a positive interaction you had in English. Write it down and note what went well. Over time, you'll start to see a pattern of growth that can motivate you to keep pushing forward.
That's a fantastic exercise, Sophia. And to all our listeners, remember this. Confidence doesn't mean never feeling nervous. It means acknowledging that nervousness, but choosing to speak anyway. You have something valuable to share, and the world needs to hear it. So, don't let fear hold you back.
Beautifully said, Adam. Confidence is a journey, not a destination. And with the right mindset shifts, every single one of you can become a confident, impactful English speaker. All right, let's dive into our second segment, how technology can completely transform the way we learn and use English. Adam, it's incredible to think about how much easier it is now to access tools and resources compared to even just a few years ago. Back in the day, learning a language often meant signing up for classes, poring over textbooks, and maybe, if you were lucky, listening to a few cassette tapes or CDs with audio lessons. But now, technology has literally put the world of English learning at our fingertips. The possibilities are endless. Take AI tools, for example. They've revolutionized learning. Look at apps like ChatGPT or interactive chatbots. These tools allow you to practice real-life conversations anytime you want. Imagine having a conversation partner who's available 24/7, who doesn't judge you, and who can even explain where you went wrong. You can ask questions about grammar, test your vocabulary, or even get advice on how to phrase something better. Honestly, tools like this have turned language learning into something dynamic and personalized.
You're absolutely right, Sophia. AI tools are such a breakthrough because they're designed to meet learners where they are. For instance, I've worked with students who were shy about practicing with native speakers. They felt nervous about making mistakes or being judged, but using AI, they could build confidence in private before stepping into real-world conversations. One student I mentored used ChatGPT to practice job interview questions. She'd type in responses, get feedback on phrasing, and refine her answers until they sounded polished and professional. And the best part? She said it felt like having a personal coach, but without the pressure. And speaking of personalization, pronunciation tools have come so far too. Apps like Elsa Speak or Google's pronunciation assistant don't just tell you if you're wrong, they show you exactly where you need to improve. For example, if you struggle with the t-sha sound, the app breaks it down into bite-sized tips, like where to place your tongue or how to control airflow. It's almost like having a private speech therapist. Imagine the confidence boost when you hear your accent improving day by day.
Absolutely, Adam. And I love how these tools take the guesswork out of learning. It's not just about correcting mistakes, but understanding why those mistakes happen and how to fix them. Let me share something else that's been gaining traction: immersive learning through virtual reality. This is a game changer for people who want to practice English in real-life scenarios, but might not have access to English-speaking environments. For example, platforms like Mundly VR or Fluent Worlds let you step into virtual spaces where you can interact in English. Picture this: you're standing in a virtual cafe, ordering coffee from a virtual barista, or checking into a hotel. These aren't just random exercises, they're real-life situations that prepare you for what you'll encounter in the real world. And the beauty of it is, You can make mistakes without any consequences. It's all about building that muscle memory, so when the time comes to do it in real life, you're ready.
That's such an exciting development, Sophia. And it ties in with another incredible tool, streaming platforms. I always tell learners to use Netflix or YouTube as a way to immerse themselves in English. But here's the trick. You need to use them intentionally. Don't just watch passively. Turn on English subtitles and pay attention to how characters use idioms, slang, and even their intonation. Pause and repeat lines that stand out to you. This shadowing technique, where you mimic what you hear, is one of the most effective ways to improve your pronunciation and rhythm. And you know what else is great? You're not limited to movies or TV shows. Platforms like YouTube have channels dedicated to specific topics, whether it's travel, technology, or even cooking. Following a topic you're passionate about makes learning so much more enjoyable. Plus, you pick up vocabulary that's directly relevant to your interests.
Exactly. And for those who prefer listening over watching, podcasts and audiobooks are amazing resources. Listening to native speakers helps train your ear to understand different accents and speeds. It's one thing to understand slow, clear English in a classroom. It's another to catch what someone's saying when they're speaking quickly or using informal phrases. Audiobooks, for instance, let you hear how words flow together in sentences. And podcasts? They cover everything from storytelling to news to casual conversations. Apps like Audible or Spotify are treasure troves for language learners. But let's not stop there. Language exchange platforms are another powerful tool. Apps like Tandem or HelloTalk connect you with native speakers who want to learn your language while helping you practice theirs. It's like having a pen pal, but in real time. What's great about this is the cultural exchange. You're not just learning the language, but also the context in which it's used. And because these conversations are casual, you pick up expressions and slang you won't find in textbooks.
That's such a good point, Sophia. And for anyone who's working on their writing skills, tools like Grammarly or Hemingway Editor are lifesavers. These apps don't just fix your grammar, they actually teach you how to improve. Grammarly, for instance, points out why something might sound awkward or unclear and suggests better alternatives. Hemingway Editor helps you write more concisely, which is especially useful for business emails or essays. And for those aiming for a more professional tone, these tools help polish your writing to a level that's ready for the workplace.
Right, Adam. And for learners who thrive on structure, there are platforms like Coursera, Udemy, or edX offering advanced English courses. These courses are often taught by industry experts, covering topics like business communication, creative writing, or even preparing for language proficiency exams like IELTS or TOEFL. And what's great is that these courses often come with assignments and peer reviews, so you're actively engaging with the material rather than just passively learning.
Finally, let's talk about creating your own content. One of the best ways to practice English is by using it to express yourself. Start a blog, make YouTube videos, or even post short videos on platforms like TikTok. This doesn't just help with writing or speaking, it also forces you to think in English, organize your thoughts, and connect with an audience. It's a powerful way to reinforce what you're learning while showcasing your progress.
All right, we've explored how shifting your mindset can boost your confidence and how technology can help elevate your English skills. But mastering English is about more than just speaking correctly. It's about knowing how to communicate effectively in different cultural contexts. In this segment, we're diving into understanding cultural nuances in communication. Adam, don't you think this is one of the most fascinating and essential aspects of learning a language?
Absolutely, Sophia. It's often said that language and culture are two sides of the same coin. You can know all the grammar and vocabulary in the world, but if you don't understand cultural nuances, your communication might still feel stiff or even inappropriate. For instance, one of the first cultural elements learners notice when communicating in English is how indirect people can be, especially in polite conversations. Let's say you're in a business meeting, and someone says, "That's an interesting idea." Depending on the tone, That could mean anything from genuine praise to polite disagreement.
That's so true, Adam. And a big part of these nuances is tone and context. For example, in many English-speaking countries, tone often carries as much meaning as the words themselves. A phrase like, "I'm fine, thanks," can sound completely normal or sarcastic, depending on how it's said. This is something I've seen learners struggle with, understanding that it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Another interesting example is body language. In many English-speaking cultures, making direct eye contact is considered a sign of confidence and sincerity. However, in some cultures, avoiding eye contact is a way of showing respect. Misunderstanding these signals can lead to confusion or misinterpretation of someone's intentions.
Exactly, Sophia. And let's talk about something as simple as greetings. In English-speaking cultures, a casual "how are you" is often used as a polite way to start a conversation. It's not necessarily an invitation to share a detailed account of your day. A typical response like, "I'm good, thanks, how about you?" is more about maintaining social flow than diving into personal matters. But I've seen learners who take this question literally and start explaining their whole day, which can catch native speakers off guard.
That's a classic example, Adam. Another one is humor. Humor is so culture-specific that something hilarious in one culture might be confusing or even offensive in another. For example, sarcasm is a big part of humor in countries like the US and the UK. A sarcastic remark like, "Oh, great job," might actually mean the opposite. Without context, a learner might completely miss the intended humor and take the comment at face value.
Yes, and this extends to small talk as well. Small talk is often seen as a way to build rapport in English-speaking countries. Safe topics like the weather, sports, or weekend plans are common, while diving straight into personal or controversial topics, like politics or finances, can feel intrusive. It's a subtle social dance that helps people connect without stepping into uncomfortable territory.
And it's not just the topics, it's the style of communication too. For instance, Americans are often enthusiastic and direct in their expressions, using phrases like, "That's amazing," or "You're going to love this." On the other hand, British communication tends to be more understated. A phrase like, "That's not bad," might actually mean something is quite good. These subtleties can be confusing for learners, but are essential to understand if you want to truly connect with people.
Another key nuance is how disagreements are handled. In English-speaking cultures, there's often an emphasis on politeness and diplomacy. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," someone might say, "I see your point, but have you considered?" Or, "That's an interesting perspective. I wonder if we could look at it another way." This indirect approach can be baffling for learners who come from cultures where communication is more straightforward. It's about maintaining harmony while still getting your point across.
That's so true. And understanding these nuances isn't just about avoiding misunderstandings, it's about building stronger connections. When you show that you understand and respect someone's cultural norms, it shows that you're not just speaking their language, but also making an effort to understand their world.
Exactly. And here's a practical tip for learners. Pay attention to how native speakers interact in different situations. Watch how they greet each other, how they respond to questions, and how they handle disagreements. Observing these patterns can teach you a lot. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Most people are happy to explain their cultural norms if you approach them with genuine curiosity.
Yes, observation is key. And another fantastic way to learn cultural nuances is through storytelling. Whether it's movies, books, or even podcasts, stories are filled with cultural context. Pay attention to how characters interact, express emotions, and navigate social situations. It's like a cultural masterclass woven into entertainment.
That's such a great point, Sophia. And for those who want to take it further, joining cultural exchange groups or language communities is invaluable. These give you real-life exposure to cultural practices, and you can learn directly from native speakers. One fun challenge for our listeners: try to learn one new cultural nuance each week. It could be something as simple as mastering small talk or understanding the etiquette around invitations. Over time, these small efforts will make a huge difference.
Exactly, Adam. And remember, understanding cultural nuances doesn't mean changing who you are. It's about adapting to connect more effectively with others while still bringing your unique perspective to the table. So, to all our listeners, take time to explore the cultural side of English. It's not just educational, but also incredibly rewarding. All right, we've discussed how mindset shifts can build your confidence, how technology can elevate your English skills, and how understanding cultural nuances is essential for truly connecting with others. Now, in this segment, we're going to tackle another powerful aspect of mastering English: mastering your accent and intonation. Adam, why do you think this is so important for effective communication?
Great question, Sophia. Well, accent and intonation are two key components of spoken language that can make a huge difference in how well you're understood. You could have perfect grammar and vocabulary, but if your accent and intonation are off, it can affect the clarity of your speech. Intonation, for example, refers to the rise and fall of your voice. It helps convey meaning, emotion, and even intent. Without the correct intonation, you could say something that sounds completely neutral when you actually meant to express surprise or excitement.
Exactly, Adam. Intonation is like the musicality of language. It adds meaning to your words. And just like you said, accent plays a huge role too. When people talk about accent, they often refer to the way a person pronounces words based on their region or native language. However, accents aren't just about pronunciation. They can also affect how people perceive you. Sometimes, even if the grammar is correct, a strong accent can make communication harder for listeners to understand, especially if the accent is unfamiliar.
That's right, Sophia. Let's dive a little deeper into intonation. In English, we use intonation to indicate whether we're asking a question, making a statement, or expressing surprise. For example, a rising intonation at the end of a sentence usually indicates a question. If you say, "You're going to the party?" with a rising tone at the end, it's understood as a question. But if you use a flat or falling intonation, it sounds like a statement. So, a small change in how you say something can completely change the meaning of your words.
Exactly. And let's talk about the role of stress in sentences. In English, we stress certain words to give them more emphasis. For example, if someone says, "I didn't say he stole the money," the meaning changes depending on which word you stress. If you stress "I," it implies you didn't say it, but someone else might have. If you stress "stole," it suggests that what was taken wasn't money. This kind of stress can drastically change the nuance of what you're saying.
Yes, and that's where accents come into play too. Different regions and countries have different accents, and within those accents, words might be pronounced differently. For example, the word schedule is pronounced as schedule in American English, while in British English, it's pronounced as schedule. These differences can lead to misunderstandings if you're not familiar with the accent of the person you're speaking to. But mastering accents isn't about eliminating your native accent completely, it's about being understood clearly by a wide range of speakers.
Right, Adam. And for English learners, it's important to focus on clear pronunciation rather than trying to mimic a native speaker's accent perfectly. You don't have to lose your unique accent to be understood. It's more about making sure that your pronunciation is clear and that your intonation conveys the right message. A good tip here is to practice with native speakers or through listening exercises. Try to imitate the rhythm and flow of their speech. This will help you understand the natural rise and fall of English sentences.
Absolutely. One of the best ways to improve your accent and intonation is through regular practice with native speakers. And I know it might feel a bit intimidating at first, but there's no better way to learn than by immersing yourself in real conversations. There are also great resources out there like podcasts, audiobooks, and language apps that can help you fine-tune your pronunciation. But remember, it's not just about repeating words. It's about mimicking the natural patterns of speech that you hear.
That's such an important point, Adam. Also, pay attention to the context of the conversation. For example, when speaking in a formal setting, you may need to adopt a more neutral accent to ensure clarity. In casual conversations, however, accents are more flexible, and as long as your speech is clear, your accent might not even be an issue. But being aware of this shift in formality and how it affects your accent and intonation is key.
That's a great tip, Sophia. And let's not forget that intonation and accent can also be influenced by emotions. When you're excited, for instance, your intonation tends to rise higher and your pace might increase. But when you're upset or serious, your voice might lower and become more deliberate. This emotional element in speech is something learners should pay attention to because it helps convey more than just the words. It's what adds emotional color and meaning to your sentences.
Exactly. A really fun and effective way to work on your intonation and accent is to practice with storytelling. Pick a story or an anecdote and practice saying it in different tones. Try saying the same sentence with excitement, surprise, and even sadness to see how your intonation changes the meaning. You can also try mimicking the way native speakers tell stories in movies or podcasts. This helps you improve your rhythm, tone, and accent naturally.
Storytelling is such a powerful tool, Sophia. And for anyone feeling unsure about their accent, remember that it's not about perfection. The goal is clear communication. You can have an accent and still be an excellent communicator. What matters most is being able to express your ideas effectively so your listeners can understand you clearly, and practicing regularly will help you improve over time.
All right, we talked about how mindset shifts build confidence, how technology helps upgrade your English skills, and how cultural nuances influence effective communication. Now let's dive into a skill that is often underrated, but incredibly powerful for connecting with others: small talk. Adam, I know this sounds simple, but why do you think small talk is so important for fluent English speakers?
Great question, Sophia. Small talk might seem trivial at first, but it's actually a fundamental part of social interaction, especially in English-speaking cultures. It's the doorway to deeper conversations. People use small talk to establish rapport, build trust, and show interest in others. Without it, conversations can feel awkward or forced. Small talk helps ease into more meaningful topics and can make social situations much more comfortable.
Exactly, Adam. And what's interesting is that small talk isn't just about saying anything. It's about saying the right things at the right time. For example, when you meet someone for the first time, instead of diving straight into a heavy topic, you usually start with something light like, "How's the weather?" Or, "Have you done anything exciting lately?" It's a way of breaking the ice and setting a friendly tone.
That's right, Sophia. And here's the thing. Small talk is not just a filler. It serves a purpose. It's the social glue that binds conversations. If you're at a networking event, for instance, small talk is a way to engage with people before moving into deeper discussions about work or personal life. A good small talk conversation can turn a casual encounter into a lasting connection.
Yes. And let's talk about the types of topics that are perfect for small talk. The key is to choose subjects that are neutral, non-controversial, and easy to discuss. Weather is always a great go-to, especially in countries with unpredictable climates. Asking, "Have you noticed how cold it's been this week?" Or, "Is it always this hot in the summer here?" is a great way to initiate a conversation that anyone can join in on, no matter their background.
Exactly. Another classic topic is the weekend or holiday plans. You can ask, "Do you have any fun plans for the weekend?" Or, "What did you get up to last weekend?" These questions work because they're light and don't require a lot of personal information. It's an easy way to connect without making anyone feel uncomfortable.
Definitely. And food is another universal topic that works wonders in small talk. You could ask, "Have you tried any good restaurants around here?" Or, "What's your favorite type of cuisine?" Food is something almost everyone has an opinion about, and it's a great way to bond over shared tastes.
And don't forget about hobbies or interests. Asking, "Do you have any hobbies?" Or, "What do you like to do in your free time?" is a simple, non-invasive way to learn more about someone's interests. And from there, you can build upon that topic. Maybe they like hiking, and you can share your experiences or ask for recommendations.
Absolutely, Adam. And here's an important part of small talk: listening. It's not just about talking, it's about listening actively and showing interest. When someone shares something with you, it's essential to respond with follow-up questions. For example, if they mention a trip they took, ask about their experience. "That sounds amazing. What was the highlight of your trip?" This shows you're engaged and care about what they're saying.
Yes, active listening is key. It's what makes small talk feel like a real conversation instead of just surface-level chatter. And it's not just about asking questions, it's about making comments that show you're really listening. For instance, if someone talks about their weekend plans, you could say, "That sounds like a great way to relax," or "I love that place too." By adding these little comments, you keep the conversation flowing and make it more natural.
Right, Adam. Another aspect to keep in mind is to avoid turning small talk into an interrogation. Don't overwhelm the other person with too many questions, especially in a short amount of time. Small talk should be a two-way street. Share a little bit about yourself too, but keep it light and casual. For example, "I love going hiking on the weekends," can be a good way to share without dominating the conversation.
Exactly. And one of the most important things to remember in small talk is to keep it positive. Avoid heavy or negative topics like politics, money, or personal problems. These can make the conversation uncomfortable or awkward, especially if you don't know the person very well. Stick to topics that everyone can engage with, and always try to maintain a positive tone.
Definitely. The last thing you want is to make someone feel uncomfortable or put them on the spot. And if the conversation stalls, don't worry. Small talk is often a stepping stone to a deeper conversation, and sometimes silence is okay. You can always transition to something else, or just acknowledge the quiet and say something like, "I guess we've run out of things to talk about for now." That can break the tension and open the door to a new topic.
Great point, Sophia. And for our listeners, here's a fun challenge for you. Practice small talk in different situations. Whether it's with a neighbor, a colleague, or someone you meet at a coffee shop, try to start a light, casual conversation and see where it goes. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel.
Exactly. And remember, the goal of small talk is to build rapport and make the other person feel comfortable. It's not about delivering a perfect performance, it's about creating a connection, no matter how brief. So, don't stress over it. Just engage, be curious, and enjoy the conversation.
That's a great reminder, Sophia. Small talk can truly be the key to making connections and opening the door to more meaningful conversations. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's segment on the art of small talk.
So far in today's episode, we've discussed the importance of confidence and mindset shifts, how technology can help improve your English skills, the impact of cultural nuances on communication, and the key role small talk plays in social interactions. But now, let's dive into one of the most essential skills for professional and personal success: presentation and public speaking. Adam, this is a crucial skill for anyone wanting to communicate effectively in English, especially when it comes to larger audiences. Why is mastering presentation and public speaking so important?
Great question, Sophia. Public speaking and presentations are not just for professional speakers or business executives. They are vital for anyone who wants to have a strong impact in both formal and informal situations. Whether you're presenting an idea at work, leading a meeting, or even speaking at a family event, the ability to present your thoughts clearly and confidently is crucial. When you speak well, you can inspire, educate, and persuade your audience. In English especially, fluency in presentation can really elevate your communication skills and give you a powerful voice.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people struggle with public speaking because it can be intimidating. There's a lot of anxiety around standing in front of a group and presenting. But the key to overcoming that fear is preparation and practice, right?
Exactly, Sophia. Preparation is the foundation of any great presentation. The more you plan, the more confident you'll feel when it's time to speak. One of the most important things to consider is your content. You need to be clear about your message and the purpose of your presentation. Ask yourself, what do I want my audience to walk away with after hearing me? Whether it's to inform, inspire, or entertain, having a clear goal will shape how you deliver your presentation.
Yes, having a clear objective is key, but it's also important to organize your content effectively. A well-structured presentation not only keeps you on track, but helps your audience follow along more easily. Adam, what are your thoughts on structuring a presentation?
Well, typically, I recommend following a simple structure: introduction, body, and conclusion. The introduction should grab the audience's attention. This is where you can start with a hook, something that engages them right away. For example, you could start with a surprising fact, a question, or even a short story. The body of your presentation is where you go into the details of your topic. It's important to break down your content into digestible chunks, maybe with 3 to 4 key points that you can focus on. And then, your conclusion should wrap everything up and leave your audience with something memorable.
That's a great breakdown. A strong introduction really sets the tone for the entire presentation, and the conclusion ensures that your message sticks with the audience. But beyond structure, another crucial element of public speaking is engaging with your audience. How can you make sure you're connecting with the people you're speaking to, especially in larger groups?
Great point. Engaging with your audience is what transforms a good presentation into a great one. One of the best ways to do this is by maintaining eye contact. It might sound simple, but eye contact helps build trust and makes your audience feel like you're speaking directly to them. If you're speaking to a large group, try to make eye contact with different sections of the room, moving around so that everyone feels included. It's also important to vary your tone and pace. Don't speak in a monotone voice. A varied tone keeps your audience engaged and emphasizes key points.
Right, Adam. And another powerful technique is using body language. The way you move, stand, and gesture can add emphasis to your words and help you appear more confident. For example, instead of standing behind a podium or holding onto a microphone, try to stand up straight, move around a bit, and use hand gestures. This not only helps convey energy, but also makes you appear more approachable.
Exactly, Sophia. Body language speaks volumes, and the way you present yourself physically can either support or undermine your message. If you're hunched over or fidgeting, it can signal nervousness or a lack of confidence. But standing tall, using purposeful gestures, and even smiling can give the impression of confidence and comfort, which will make the audience feel more at ease.
And let's not forget the power of pauses. We often feel the need to fill every second with words, but strategic pauses can be incredibly effective. When you pause after making an important point, it gives your audience time to digest what you just said. It also makes you seem more thoughtful and in control.
Absolutely. Pausing is one of the most powerful tools in public speaking, but it's often overlooked. Pauses can create suspense, give emphasis, and even help you collect your thoughts if you're nervous. It also makes you sound more deliberate and confident when you speak. It's a simple technique, but incredibly effective.
Definitely. And another thing to consider is how you handle mistakes or nerves. Even the most seasoned speakers get nervous or stumble over their words. But the key is not to panic or try to cover it up. If you make a mistake, acknowledge it briefly and move on. Your audience will appreciate your authenticity, and it won't detract from your overall message.
That's so true, Sophia. People are more forgiving than we think, and mistakes happen to everyone. What really matters is how you handle it. If you acknowledge it calmly and move forward, the audience respects your confidence and adaptability. The worst thing you can do is freeze or try to cover it up awkwardly. Be honest and stay composed. This helps you maintain credibility and keeps the audience focused on your message.
Right. And here's another tip. Practice, practice, practice. The more you rehearse, the more comfortable you will become. Even if you're not in front of a crowd, rehearsing in front of a mirror or recording yourself can help you identify areas where you might improve, whether it's your tone, body language, or pacing. The more prepared you are, the less nervous you'll feel.
Exactly, Sophia. Rehearsing is crucial. I recommend practicing in different environments, too. Try rehearsing in front of friends, family, or colleagues to get feedback. It's a great way to simulate the pressure of speaking in front of an audience and get more comfortable with the real experience. You'll start to identify what works and what doesn't, and that's invaluable in improving your presentation skills.
Absolutely. So, to summarize everything we've discussed today, first, make sure your content is well organized and your message is clear. Second, engage with your audience through eye contact, body language, and a varied tone of voice. Third, use pauses strategically to give emphasis and give your audience time to reflect on your points. And finally, practice consistently to build confidence and smooth out any rough patches.
Well said, Sophia. Presentation and public speaking are powerful skills, and they can make a huge difference in how you communicate in English. Remember, confidence comes with practice, and the more you work on these skills, the better you'll get. So go ahead and take these tips into your next presentation, whether it's a formal speech or just sharing an idea in a meeting.
So far, we've covered some really essential skills for fluency in English, like building confidence, mastering small talk, and improving your public speaking abilities. But now, let's shift gears a bit and dive into something that is just as crucial in the world of communication: written communication. Adam, we live in an age where most communication is either through email, text, or social media, and written communication plays such a huge role. Why do you think it's so important to master this skill, especially for English learners?
Great point, Sophia. In today's world, the way we express ourselves in writing is often the first impression we make, whether it's in a professional email, a social media post, or even a text message. Clear and effective written communication is essential for building relationships, getting your ideas across, and even succeeding in a professional setting. Think about how many times a day you write an email, a report, or even just a quick message to a friend. If your writing is unclear, disorganized, or riddled with mistakes, it can lead to misunderstandings, missed opportunities, and even frustration.
Exactly, Adam. And for non-native English speakers, written communication can sometimes be even more challenging than speaking because it's harder to convey tone and emotion through text. When you're speaking, people can pick up on your tone of voice and body language, but in writing, it's all about the words you choose and how you structure them. So, how can learners improve their written communication skills?
That's a great question, Sophia. The first step to improving written communication is clarity. Whether you're writing an email, a report, or even a social media post, you want to make sure your message is clear and to the point. Avoid long, rambling sentences and make your ideas easy to understand. In English, this often means using short, simple sentences rather than trying to impress with overly complex vocabulary or long-winded explanations. The goal is to be understood, not just to sound impressive.
Right, clarity is key. And I think this is where a lot of English learners struggle. They might know the words, but struggle with how to structure their sentences in a way that makes sense. For example, sometimes in the attempt to sound formal or sophisticated, they end up using complicated sentence structures that confuse the reader. But keeping it simple doesn't mean sacrificing sophistication, right?
Exactly. You can still sound professional and intelligent without overcomplicating things. A good way to ensure clarity is to keep your sentences concise and focused. If you're writing an email to a colleague, for instance, instead of saying something like, "I was wondering if perhaps it would be possible for us to maybe schedule a meeting at your earliest convenience," you can simplify it to, "Could we schedule a meeting at your earliest convenience?" The second option is more direct, and it's still polite.
That's such a great example, Adam. Simple, direct, and polite. Those are the keys to professional written communication. Another tip I'd like to add is the importance of structure. Organizing your writing into clear paragraphs with a logical flow makes a big difference. In emails or reports, for example, you want to have an introduction where you state the purpose of the message, followed by a body that details the information, and then a conclusion with a call to action or a summary. This helps the reader follow your ideas without getting lost.
Absolutely. Structure is so important. If your writing is just a wall of text with no clear breaks or organization, the reader can easily become overwhelmed and lose track of your main points. Even in informal writing, like texts or messages, having a clear flow can make your message easier to understand. I also want to touch on tone. When writing, it's easy to misinterpret tone because there are no vocal cues or facial expressions to help convey emotions. So, being mindful of how your message may be perceived is crucial.
Yes, tone is something that can get lost in written communication, especially when you're writing in a second language. For example, when you're trying to be polite or friendly, you might come across as too formal or distant if you're not careful with your word choice. A great way to make sure your tone matches your intention is to read your writing out loud before sending it. If it sounds too harsh or too casual, you can adjust accordingly.
Exactly. Reading out loud is a fantastic trick. It helps you catch mistakes or awkward phrasing that you might miss when reading silently. Another important point is proofreading. Whether you're writing a formal email, a work report, or even a social media post, always take a moment to proofread before hitting send. Spelling and grammar mistakes can make you seem unprofessional or careless, so it's worth taking the extra time to check your writing. Even tools like Grammarly can help catch errors that you might overlook.
That's a great point, Adam. Proofreading is essential. And speaking of grammar, another tip I'd like to add is using correct punctuation. Punctuation plays a huge role in clarifying the meaning of your sentences. For example, consider the difference between "let's eat, Grandma" and "let's eat, Grandma." The first sentence invites Grandma to join in a meal, while the second implies something much darker. So, punctuation is more than just a formality. It's essential to ensuring that your message is clear and accurate.
Ha! That's a great example, Sophia. Punctuation definitely makes a huge difference. A well-placed comma or period can completely change the meaning of a sentence. And on top of grammar and punctuation, there's also the matter of vocabulary. Using the right word in the right context is key to sounding both natural and professional in written communication. But here's the thing. While it's tempting to use big or sophisticated words, it's often more effective to choose words that are clear and precise rather than overly complex. English learners should focus on using the most accurate word for the situation.
Absolutely. And one more thing I want to highlight is the importance of audience awareness. Before you start writing, think about who you're writing to and adjust your style accordingly. Are you writing to a colleague or a friend? Are you writing a formal email or a casual text message? The tone, structure, and vocabulary you use will vary depending on your audience. Being able to tailor your writing to different situations is a vital skill.
That's such a good point, Sophia. Understanding your audience ensures that your message lands as intended. Whether you're writing a cover letter, a business email, or a quick text to a friend, being able to adjust your writing style is something every English learner should master. And finally, I want to mention practice. Just like with speaking or listening, the more you write, the better you'll get. So, try writing every day, whether it's journaling, responding to emails, or even engaging on social media. Consistency is key to improving your written communication.
Exactly. Writing regularly helps you internalize grammar rules, vocabulary, and proper structures. Plus, it gives you the chance to experiment with different writing styles and improve over time. So, to recap, for clear and effective written communication, focus on clarity, structure, tone, proofreading, vocabulary, and understanding your audience. And remember, the more you write, the better you'll become.
Well said, Sophia. Written communication is an essential skill for mastering English and should be practiced just as much as speaking. By following these tips, you'll be able to express yourself clearly and confidently in any written situation.
We've covered a lot of ground so far today, from boosting your confidence and communication skills to mastering public speaking and writing. But there's one more area that's absolutely crucial for improving fluency and expanding your opportunities in both social and professional settings: networking. Adam, I know networking can seem intimidating for many people, especially when speaking a second language like English. What role do you think networking plays in achieving fluency?
That's such an important topic, Sophia. Networking is absolutely essential for fluency because it opens the doors to real-life practice. When you network, you're not only making connections for your career or social life, but you're also engaging in authentic, spontaneous conversations. These types of interactions, whether in professional environments or casual social settings, give you the chance to put your language skills to the test. Networking, in essence, is like immersion. It provides opportunities to practice speaking, listening, and understanding English in context. The more you network, the more you're forced to adapt and become more fluent.
That's a great point, Adam. Networking is not just about exchanging business cards or LinkedIn connections. It's about building relationships. And I think a lot of people overlook the social aspect of networking. It's not just about talking about business or professional goals. It's also about getting to know people on a personal level. In fact, building genuine connections in both social and professional environments can be one of the best ways to practice English and grow your fluency.
Exactly, Sophia. Networking isn't just transactional. It's about creating bonds and understanding the nuances of small talk, casual conversations, and even deeper discussions. It's also a fantastic way to expand your cultural knowledge, since you're meeting people from different backgrounds and experiencing various communication styles. And if you're interacting with English speakers, it gives you the chance to hear how native speakers communicate in a variety of situations, which can greatly improve your understanding and fluency.
Yes, and to make the most of your networking efforts, you need to have strategies in place. You can't just wait for opportunities to fall into your lap. So, Adam, what are some practical networking hacks that can help English learners really make an impact and get the most out of their interactions?
Great question, Sophia. The first thing I would recommend is having a personal elevator pitch ready. An elevator pitch is a brief, clear introduction about who you are and what you do. It's called an elevator pitch because it should be short enough to deliver in the time it takes to ride an elevator with someone, about 30 seconds to 1 minute. In English, it's important to keep this pitch simple and concise while highlighting key points that will engage the person you're speaking to. Whether you're at a business conference or at a social event, this is your chance to quickly communicate who you are and what value you can offer.
That's so true, Adam. And even though your elevator pitch is short, it should feel natural and not rehearsed. The last thing you want is to sound robotic or over-prepared. Instead, practice it until you're comfortable with the flow, but leave room for flexibility based on the conversation. And I think another important hack is active listening. When you're networking, it's easy to focus too much on what you want to say next, but it's crucial to actively listen to the other person. Not only does this show you're genuinely interested in them, but it also gives you cues to respond appropriately, which will help you keep the conversation going.
Exactly. Active listening is a game changer in networking. It's important to focus on the person you're speaking with and ask thoughtful follow-up questions that demonstrate your interest. In English, sometimes the tendency is to jump into the conversation and start talking about yourself. But a key to building connections is showing curiosity about the other person's thoughts, experiences, and opinions. And when you're listening, try to pick up on cultural and conversational cues. For example, notice if someone uses humor or how they structure their sentences, as it will help you mirror their style of communication.
Yes. And let's talk about body language for a moment. Networking isn't just about what you say. It's also about how you present yourself. Positive body language can make a huge impact on how people perceive you. Whether you're shaking hands, maintaining good posture, or making eye contact, your physical presence can communicate a lot about your confidence and engagement. And remember, body language doesn't just come into play when you're meeting people for the first time. It's just as important during follow-up interactions, like meetings or casual catch-ups. Your non-verbal cues can make you seem more approachable and interested, which will help you build trust and rapport.
That's spot on, Sophia. And here's another crucial tip. Don't be afraid to make the first move. Many people hesitate when it comes to starting conversations, especially in professional settings. But if you wait for others to come to you, you might miss out on valuable opportunities. Whether you're at a conference, a networking event, or even a casual social gathering, be proactive in introducing yourself and starting conversations. Approach people with a friendly smile, and even if your English isn't perfect, show that you're willing to engage. Confidence in your ability to speak will naturally improve through practice, so embrace those networking opportunities.
Exactly. And even if you're nervous about speaking in English, don't let fear hold you back. Most people at networking events are focused on their own conversations and goals, so they'll likely be forgiving if you make a mistake. Plus, you'll quickly realize that the more you engage, the more comfortable you'll become. And remember that people often appreciate when you take the time to speak their language, even if it's not perfect.
That's a great reminder, Sophia. Networking also gives you the chance to practice in different contexts, whether you're having a casual chat over coffee or a more formal discussion in a professional setting. The key is to focus on building relationships and enjoying the process of connecting with others. In the long run, the more you network, the better your fluency will become, both in terms of language skills and cultural understanding.
Absolutely. And finally, let's talk about follow-up. After you meet someone, make sure you follow up, whether it's through email, LinkedIn, or another platform. This is where you can solidify the connection and start building a relationship. A brief, friendly follow-up message that references something from your conversation will go a long way in making a lasting impression.
Yes, the follow-up is often the key to turning a one-time interaction into a lasting connection. It doesn't need to be long. Just a short, polite message thanking them for their time and reiterating any key points you discussed is perfect. Plus, following up can open the door for future opportunities, whether that's continuing the conversation, collaborating on a project, or just keeping the relationship alive.
So, to sum up our tips for successful networking. First, have a clear and engaging elevator pitch. Second, practice active listening to build a deeper connection. Third, use positive body language to convey confidence. Fourth, take the initiative and make the first move. And finally, don't forget the power of follow-up to maintain and strengthen your connections. By using these networking hacks, you can improve your fluency and expand your opportunities in both social and professional circles.
Exactly, Sophia. Networking is one of the most effective ways to practice and improve your English in real-world contexts. And remember, the more you network, the more comfortable you'll become in social and professional situations, which will ultimately help you achieve fluency in English.